Yo, what's up guys? TheInsaneGamefreak here to bring you a video game related discussion, and this is going to be on the possible stuff of Sonic Adventure 3. Now, we don't know that Sonic Adventure 3 is even coming out, but we know the domain name has been registered, and we're going to throw out wild speculations because that's what we do. Because most of the time when a domain name is registered, that usually means the game is either being made or will be released in the future. There are very few times where it hasn't been the case. Most of the time it is. So we're gonna take that with a grain of salt, but let's just pretend like there is. This is kind of a discussion, kind of a what if discussion, because even if it doesn't come out, it's still a fun discussion, whatever the case. But here are my thoughts, and here's the open discussion on Sonic Adventure 3. Let's go. Okay, so Sonic Adventure 3. Now, there's a lot of controversy that's going to surround this game for multiple reasons. One, if you're going to call it Sonic Adventure 3, is it going to have the same gameplay style as 1 and 2? For those who've seen 1 and 2, you know that 1 and 2 had the whole concept of the physics were completely different. Like if you take the current style of Sonic right now, which is the Generations play style, and look at the other two styles that were which were in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, it's completely different. And mind you, I heard in an interview at the Generations he planned to switch up the gameplay styles anyway. So is the gameplay style going to go harking back to those old school games? Or is it just going to be something completely different? I mean, are we going to stick with are we going to have a newer version of those old school styles? Are we going to have the Generations play style? Or we're going to have something totally new? The problem is, the last time we had something totally new, we had a very fucked up Sonic 06 type of play style method where Sonic looked like he was running in place half the time. Like, the nigga wasn't really moving fast. It just, either that or his animation just made it look really fucking slow. So that's the first issue. We don't know what gameplay style this is going with. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if they use the Generation style. The only problem is that if you're gonna make the Sonic Adventure 3 as a trilogy, I think honestly what they need to do is just take the old gameplay style and just revamp it for the new generation. Like really, that's all they need to do. Because it's probably, if the game is existing, it's probably gonna come out like at the end of 2013. Because they have to have a Sonic game every year, and we didn't get a mainstream Sonic game this year. All we got is Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transform, which is essentially a sequel, but then again it's not a mainstream Sonic title, but it's a title that has Sonic in it, you know. So they're filling their quota, quote unquote. So, in terms of that, which playstyles would you prefer? I would not mind honestly any of the first two. The third one I'm very iffy about because they're just now getting back on good ground with side games, so I'm not really hyped about them trying to do something new again, because the last time they did something new, we went through like a dark age for like, what was that, like 4 years? Yeah, about 4 years we went through like a dark age, so yeah, just either revamp the old style that was used in the first two games, or use the Generations play style, while making it a little easier to free roam. Because I think that's the problem with, I mean, that's the difference between the other games. Like, in Sonic Adventure 2, even though there was no hut worlds, you could free roam in a level. Whereas with Generations, you're either going, free roaming is awkward as hell to do. Like, so I mean that's the biggest problem with Generations. Mind you, Generations really isn't a level isn't a game you're free roam in anyway. But he's still stiff as hell. He's not like insanely stiff, but he's pretty damn stiff, and that's probably the biggest problem in terms of the free roaming aspect. So that's that. The next thing we should probably move on into is story and what they do with stories. Now, as we've seen with the first two games, every time they made a new game, a new character was introduced. In the first game, Chaos, Tikal, Big, and Gamma, I think, were the main ones that were introduced. In Sonic Adventure 2, they introduced Rouge, Shadow, and Robotnik's grandfather. I think were the only three new characters. Meaning that if they're going to keep that tradition up, there's a possibility they're going to re-add 3 more characters into the roster. Because usually what they did is they took the entire cast and they put them in the game. Like usually, like if you were in the first game, they usually put you in the second game. I think the only character that didn't happen was with Gamma, because Gamma died. No, Gamma and Big, I think, were the only two characters that were excluded from Sonic Adventure 2. So it kind of brings up the question, which Sonic Adventure characters do you want in Sonic Adventure 3? Well, obviously we have to have Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Amy's a given. Robotnik's a given. And then we get really iffy because then we start getting into Shadow, Rouge, which I think are pretty close. And then this is where we get really iffy. Silver, Blaze, and Cream. They haven't really put in like Vector, Charmy, or SBO in any of the other games, so I'm not really counting on that, nor do I really care about having those characters in. The reason why I bring up the amount of characters is because it also brings up what type of playstyle they're going with. Like the first game, they just had every character have their own story. The second game switched you up from dark, and light, because you only had really 6 playable characters and like 3 different playstyles. Whereas in this game, if you have, and we honestly should take Sonic 06 as a grain of salt and try to use that kind of as a basis because for Sonic Adventure 3, because for the most part people assumed that was going to be essentially a 2006 Sonic Adventure 3, which we're so glad he didn't name it that, because that would have been complete shit. But you kind of, what did they do there? They had a Sonic story, a Shadow story, and a Silver story. Well, it also depends on what the story is for Sonic Adventure 3 is. Honestly, I think if they're using the same writers that they've been using for Colors and Generations, as much as people are mad that Generations doesn't have as many funny scenes, Generations still has good writing. It's not like they ruined the plot. Like, they didn't fuck up anything. It was still simplified as hell, and they still had funny moments. For God's sake, people think Eggman is like the funniest thing with the Sonic Colors writing, especially with fucking Colors and this game. So, and Generations. So, for Sonic Adventure 3, if they're using that same writers, and I know this, and if this happens, I called it. I think they should use Mighty. Was it like Mighty the Armadillo and like I forget the other dude's name, the Flying Squirrel. The 2 original character designs for Sonic. I think those should be the enemies of this game if they're gonna throw in new characters. And what I mean by that is essentially the game. This is the picture I have for the game. The game will start out with Eggman fucking over Sonic. Like, it getting to the point where like, Eggman isn't saying pretty much Eggman becomes like a dead man in terms of, like, saying anything, in terms of, like, quick liners or reports or threats. Isn't doing any of his typical shtick. He's not even laughing anymore. And he's actually being very competent in beating Sonic's ass. I think the first part of the game should be Sonic trying to stop him and him being overly serious and almost killing Sonic, and then like having Tails or Knuckles save him, and then being like, what the fuck is up with Eggman? And then, Eggman still having his plot, but like something being horribly wrong with Eggman. And throughout the game, you're going to stop his so-called plot, which I haven't really thought that head in. It should be his like so-called plot, and then only for it to when he gets to the final climax, you find out it's not Eggman, but it's actually these 2 old school characters that were the original designs for Sonic. Because if they're also doing the whole gimmick of mixing in, continuing games, like how Colors led into Generations indirectly, have Generations lead into Sonic Adventure 3, even though that wouldn't make sense, it'd be an interesting idea. Because there's nothing in Sonic Adventure 2 that could have carried over. Nothing, because they tried to carry all of it over in Shadow. So I don't see those were 2 different games. I think crossing Generations with Sonic Adventure 3 would be funny. Mainly just because if they're in the White Void, him and his classic self, have, Mighty and, I forget the name of the Flying Squirrel, but like the Armadillo and the Squirrel be the ones that help Eggman get out of the Void, but in return, want to like create this plan to destroy Sonic because of the whole fourth wall breaking of, You're the reason why no one even knows who we are anymore, and only old school fans would get it. I think that would be a nice Sonic Adventure 3 plot setup. Obviously I haven't thought out all the tiny details, but I think that would be a pretty funny setup if they're using Colors Writer. It would totally allow to make some of the most ridiculous jokes in the series. So in terms of plot, I think that would be a good idea. And then now it comes up to the whole setup of what is the gameplay style going to be. Well, this also just depends on if they're going to use the Generation style, if they're going to use a revamped Sonic Adventure 2 style, or they're going to use a completely new style. If they use the Generation style, they're not going to have to do anything for Sonic. Sonic, Blaze, Shadow, I think should all play the same. Tails, you shouldn't even have... Tails, essentially, all you have to do is just give Tails a competent physics. That's all. It's not hard to do Tails. Like, do Tails... It also brings up the question if Tails will have the spin dash or not. Because Tails' main gimmick is that he can fly and use tail attacks. Which is glitchy as shit in Sonic Adventure 1. They work, but they look weird. Like, it just didn't look cool. So, it depends on if they're going to have him rock the mech. Personally, I would like to play as Tails by himself. Knuckles, I feel like a lot of people can't stand the treasure hunting segments, which I can really agree. Something tells me they're going to keep one of those two. They're probably going to keep the treasure hunting. Something just tells me they're going to. But if they don't, I would say instead of him having a gold ring at the end, have him collect the emeralds at the end of the level so people won't be as pissed. Maybe give us two options. You know, Generations gave us a lot of extra options with things I thought was cool. So if you carry that concept over to Sonic Adventure 3, if you give us an option of which way we can complete the stage, whether we want to like collect the shit during the stage or do we want to, you know, get it at the end of the stage, I think that'd be cool. Mind you, Sonic Team or Sega hasn't been that nice about things where they allow you to choose which type of the gameplay you want to do. Honestly, I wouldn't even really mind the treasure hunting segments because if it's anything set up like the Sonic Generations levels, like with multiple pathways and shit, I'm not gonna mind. Also, they're probably not gonna give those two characters boosts though. Like I don't think Tails should have a boost. I think Tails should just have his flying mechanic and just give him his own specific levels. It also brings up the question if you're gonna do it in Sonic Adventure 2 style where they all have their own separate set of levels, or if they're all gonna go through the same levels. I think they should all have separate levels, but I think they should also give you the ability to play in the other levels with those other characters. But then again, like it's like especially like Knuckles and Tails. Their levels, like, well, at least Knuckles levels that they're doing the treasure hunting thing, you can't even have Sonic playing that level purely just because that level's going to be designed for treasure hunting, which is why I think they should all be set up as get to the gold ring, but just have different objectives. Also, try to throw in some new set pieces. I think the first and the second game had both of their cool set pieces that made them original. I mean, we saw them in fucking Generations, so, you know, that'd be cool. It also brings up how they're going to set in all that many stories, which is probably why they're taking 2 years to make this game, opposed to like a year that they usually have. Like, when they went from Colors to Generations, I don't think there was that much thought had to be needed because it's literally an anniversary title. All you had to do was come up with like a children's story and throw it in there, which is exactly what they did. But with Sonic Adventure 3, they're going to create a new engine for the gameplay and brand new levels and brand new set pieces. You're going to have to go in, which I don't really mind them taking 2 years for that. That's probably why we haven't gotten like a mainstream Sonic game this year. We just got Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transform. And Jay wants me to get that game, so maybe. I'll think about it. There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit in this later half of the year I want to buy. But in terms of the characters and what I think and how the setup should it be in pairs? Or I think it should just honestly be the same story setup. The problem is that you now have to give a reason for Blaze's characters. Like, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are going to be the hero. Shadow Rouge and what's his name, Omega? Shadow Rouge and Omega, and that's if they put him in the game, which I don't know because they haven't put him in the game in forever. Yeah, he hasn't been in the game since '06. I think is the last time we saw him in the game, so they may have just said fuck that character. If they say fuck that character, now we have a very odd set of characters. I think there should be like 3 separate stories. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, you know, Sonic, Shadow, and Silver. It can easily be like Sonic, Blaze, and like Amy. It just depends on how the stories go. And I think they should try to take a chance with that. Have like 3 characters that don't really fit. Like obviously have Sonic, but have like 3 different stories. Or if they want to be really ballsy, they could do Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Be like, what the fuck? Those characters aren't hanging around each other. Like have Sonic pair with like Amy, and like I don't know, fuck, like I don't know. It's like in terms of the characters, I still think that whole hero dark side story works, but just split it up for 3 characters like Sonic 06 did, and have it be like 3 separate stories involving different characters. Like how Amy will randomly jump in during like the middle of Sonic's story and also be in like Silver's story, even though she's only playable in Silver's story. But since they're ignoring 06 continuity, it kind of brings up the question: how is Blaze's and Silver's relationship going to be now? Because we know how she's going to act towards Cream. Like honestly, I just view Cream as like a little sister character to Blaze, because I like Blaze. Blaze is like one of my favorite new characters. How Silver's going to act towards her, I don't know, because as I've said, I haven't seen any cutscenes. I haven't read any of the comics, so I don't know. I think those 3 should be paired, and I think it should be like Shadow Rouge and somebody else if they don't use. I think the robot's name is Omega. If they do use Omega, then cool. They may not though, because he hasn't been in a game. They even mentioned him in Generations, so They may not use him, and they may not use Big. In which case, that means it'll be just Shadow and Rouge. Which, there goes that shipping again. Personally, I think Rouge should get with Knuckles. That's the shipper in me. I don't know. I mean, obviously you can't exclude Shadow. Shadow's way too much of a fan favorite. Either that or just split the characters into two. Like have Shadow hang with, like have Shadow Rouge like jump between stories, between like Blazes and Silver's story, and like jump between that, or have Shadow just have like a Sanji kind of story, like where he's just chilling in the background doing shit. Because I like that kind of shit. It'd be interesting at the very least, and have him like run into other characters. Because he doesn't have an agenda anymore. That's the other problem. Like, everything with Shadow's resolved, so there's like no background. It's like there's no plot for him to do anything. I mean, Sonic will already have a reason, and maybe Blaze and Silver want to just help and shit. Blaze, Silver, and Cream, but you know, Shadow and Rouge are kind of. Also, that also brings up the last thing we need to mention: if they're going to use the human characters in the series like they've been doing, because we know in the first game they were all over the fucking place. And in the second game, they're not as relevant, but you put the president in there for God's sakes, and the UN, and you know, he was threatening the world. So obviously, a lot of people don't like the fact that Sonic is based in the human universe. I'm very mixed with it. Sometimes I don't care. Sometimes it's annoying as hell. Like, I don't care when it's the whole world at stake thing, but like I care when it's a part of the plot. Like, I didn't think, you know, Tails needed to be chasing the president. That just doesn't even sound right to me. Which is kind of one of the reasons why Sonic X to me as an anime, I got through like up until near the end of the canon stuff with like the actual Sonic Adventure 2 plot story. After that, I could not. The concept of humans in Sonic Universe just seems off now. Like, I'm tired of seeing it. Like, Sonic 06 just made me hate that concept. And it's funny because I've never actually played Sonic 06, but I hate that concept. Like, and okay, put this way: you can have Sonic and humans be in the same universe, but it has to be on the levels like Unleashed. If it's like Unleashed, I probably can put up with it. I think Unleashed was like the only game franchise to do that. Either that, or maybe just have this be the first game that doesn't have, you know, humans in it. Because I wouldn't really care either way. Either do it like an Unleashed, or just don't, or just have it be in Mobius. Also, it'd be kind of funny if they did have like Mighty and Army. I think it's like Mighty and something else, the Flying Swirl, but like Mighty the Armadillo. And they had one of those characters voiced by Jaleel White just for the comedy of it all. Totally be worth it. But I think in terms of ideas, that's about it. I'm good. Just leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. A lot of this is gonna come out left field because I don't talk about Sonic that much on my channel, and I don't know how many fans actually give a shit. But you know, if you do, cool. I don't even hang out on Sonic Retro. I know that's like the famous Sonic forum, but I figured I'd just throw out the idea because I heard that the domain name was licensed. And there will be speculation out the ass until we hear an official announcement and an official trailer. When we get that, people are going to lose their fucking minds, but until then, we wait. So this has been the Insane Game Freak. That was Gameplay to Win. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Thank you for all the support, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.